Hey, Tammy. How you doing?
Hi.
Oh, girl.
How you doing, Jason?
I'm okay. I'm all right. So, oh man, you put out the government name. Shit, I forgot that you friends now. No, you good. You good. You good. I'm joking. Um,
Okay.
no, you good. You good. You good. So many people be fucking like, oh yeah. I'm like, bro, shut up the fuck up. I don't put my shit out there. No, you good. You good. You good. You good. You didn't know the rules. I didn't tell you the rules of Fight Club yet. So, but
We
I'm
don't
just
talk
joking.
about Fight Club.
At this point in time, I should really just like change my name to like Jason History Blanks, so it could just be there, right?
Yeah,
And but I
but
hate putting my name out there because I hated my fucking name. I hate my fucking
I
name.
understand.
Yeah.
I
So, well,
understand.
you do have a name as Tammy. You do have
Yes.
the name of the
I
50-year-old
go
grandma.
by Tamala now.
You goes by
Yeah.
Tamala now.
Yeah. I changed my name to Tamala a couple of years ago,
Okay.
and I just introduce myself as Tamala and be like, "Hi, I'm Tamala," but all my friends call me Tammy. But
Tammy.
it's more or less because I'm like distancing myself from my family name.
Oh, well, so here's my thing. And big shout outs to the people who are watching the stream. And also for Blind Toes, I'm going to humor you. And I know that you can't see it, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yes, I do have good looking hair. This is my hair. My hair is looking perfectly fine today. So I know that you can't see it. You can see that damn line though. That's how fucking thick that bit is. Those do rag lines. Be serious. Uh, so big shout outs to everybody who's watching. This is actually just if you're watching this. This is a pleasure because of the fact that this is going to be just extra content for our podcast, which you can find on Spotify, wherever you get your audio acoustical pleasures from. Just join our subscription. It's only like $1 or $2 for a subscription a month. So you have extra content. So like the videos that you see, if you don't watch it live that night, it's gonna be gone next time. So you only have 2 days to watch the videos. But you can go back and enjoy it again on Spotify. Um but as far as my name, I I've had a hard time with my name. I just felt like I had the whitest name that a black person can possibly have for a long ass time.
That's a mood.
That it is. It's such a fucking it did. I intend. Don't forget Apple Podcasts. I am on the Apple Podcasts. I am absolutely. We are on Apple Podcasts. Go to Apple right now. Look up historical voices from the East Side, and you'll see us on Apple Podcasts. Actually, I will even put up a link for you. But give me 1 second. Yeah, I'll put up a link for you. This is still we are still doing the Sinbad donations. If you go to this link right here, there is an actual link for Sinbad's actual journey forward. I'm sorry, journeyforward.life. This is actually to donate to Sinbad. He is still in the hospital. You got to pay for his mental health bills. He's been having a tough time, so this is still for that. So I am gonna
Yeah.
do some reinforcing and ask some questions about First Kid and some other Sinbad stuff. But I gotta go back to my name. I felt like I had the whitest
Yes.
name
Tell me
for
all
a black
about it.
person, and I'm not even a residential African. What's up, Leaf Live? Um, I felt like my name was not black. Oh, Leaf Live is a perfect person, bro. I hate and love his fucking name. I hate his name because I'm a hater, but I love his name because of the fact that I'm like, bro, I want like that type of name. Like being Jason when you in like a all black neighborhood is like being a white kid at Def Comedy Jam. Like that's a bad fucking feeling. So I understand your name. So I've always, even when I was in undergrad and we were trying to figure out what our name is gonna be, for our actual like show, like what's our name? Because like some reporters and some actors have names like Alicia Fox, you mean, or Sylvester Silverstone. You know, it works, right? It flows.
Right.
And I was like, Jason Blanks, that this doesn't go together. So I always stuck with my a little bit of when I wanted to be a rapper, 18-year-old name, history, and kept Williams because I'm a big fan of Robin Williams and so many other Williams that was in my that I known in my life. So History Williams. That's how the birth of History Williams came. But my dad named me after his favorite serial killer. So you mean, let's go for that.
That's crazy. Yeah, my dad named me after his favorite serial killer.
So
Because he'd be on that hot girl shit.
Yeah. So it's for real.
He'd be a podcast girly.
Yeah. So I go figure. I'm in love with.
Let me know.
Go ahead. What you was gonna say?
Oh yeah, no, I was just saying. Today I was writing the script for my TikTok where I'm promoting your page and our secret plans and collaborations.
Yes.
And I used your whole federal government podcast name, and I'm like, whoo-wee.
It's so
we gotta tighten that up.
I prefer to go by History Williams. That's just my name. Like Jamie Foxx doesn't go by his real fucking name, right? Like
no. You know who also shouldn't have gone by his full name is Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yes.
Apparently his grandma tried to like warn him. She's like, hey, we owe some slaves money, my man. You can't be running out here with our federal name. And he's like, I'm gonna take that chance.
Yeah. Think about this. Like Jamie Foxx. Like think about how easy Jamie Foxx. What if the Jamie Foxx show was called the Eric Marlon Bishop Show? That would not fucking hit.
Then it'd be a talk show.
It'd be a talk show, yeah.
That sounds like a talk show host.
Yeah, like that's not a real fucking thing. So I will say this with all the pride and like joy in my heart. I am so proud of Teddy and Candy. I love Iron Eagle and Candy. I think that they're amazing people. They done great things in their lifetime. But goddamn, the fucking name. I really think that my dad and my mom wanted to name me Shelton Lewis. Could you picture Shelton Lewis? Okay. You the first reaction of ooh, that's a good name. Like that's the first time somebody said ooh.
It's a black ass name.
It's not a black name.
Shelton Lewis. It sounds like oh yeah, my son Shelton, he got a PhD. He running things. He went.
Duh, I'm just saying Shelton does not hit hard. They did also on top of that, like you mean Shelton puts me up for like being made fun of, especially in the 90s. Like, oh, Shelly, look at Shelly. Oh, especially if I was fat.
Shelly inningly. And I would have with all the kids that said otherwise.
Oh man.
I thought bullies.
Oh man. Fuck around and find out. I really think that we should just make a podcast. That's the name of the podcast. Fuck around and find out. I think that's what it is.
Fuck around and find out. And I'll just tell you like all my wild ass stories.
So you still owe me a wild story. I will wait till like maybe we are offline to talk about this story, but I do need to hear some of your shit. I don't feel like put out people's shit.
I'll tell you the whole story behind that thing we were talking about last night.
Yes, I would prefer to respect that. But yes. So I don't know. I think for PG reasons, we might have to put it as F around and find out, but I would prefer fuck around and find out, and it just like have a bunch of those random symbols.
Hold on, let me show you something. I got a sketchbook, and during 2020, I was telling Robert how I wanted to like open up a sticker shop. You know, like these are some of my stickers. Okay. And one of the stickers that I designed was "fuck around and find out." Oh, sorry. Oh my! Wait, it's supposed to be like. Yeah, I'm so sorry. It's supposed to be a hand holding a phone, and it's like in a circle.
Yeah.
And that was around the time everybody was getting recorded for acting out of their name.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So.
And I will make that a icon if I have to.
Oh man, I would love to fucking add that shit. I fuck around and find out. There we go. We're gonna put that in the fucking like. Yeah, we're gonna put that in the tank. We would definitely do a really good job like talking about
stories in the news where people are finding out.
Well, see, that's my thing. See, I would love to do one. Oh, and then also blind toes. Here you go. I know you're getting a bunch of links right now. Because I'm getting a bunch of links right now from all of my platforms. But here is the Apple Podcast link. You probably see a random ass thing out there. But it's the Historical Voices from the East Side podcast. But so the reason why I think that we need a podcast, fuck around and find out, it's because of the fact that like there's some days, especially, and I want to make it because I'm usually off around this time. We should make it a midday brunch kind of fucking episode.
I love that. I love that.
A midday brunch episode. All right, I'm gonna see if I can turn that off because Stream Elements is posting shit. Everybody else posting shit, so I'm gonna turn this off right now. But yeah, I feel like there's a need for that, man. I feel like that we need, because we just sat there vented a couple of times with each other. We done dealt with a couple of shit with each other, so we was like, man, like I was thinking like we need a fucking run and find out episode. We need that.
I love it.
I
love it. A lot of my favorite stories from my childhood is just elements of fucking around and finding out, especially like stories about my older brother.
Yes.
I swear to God, my brother, when we were kids, was the coolest human being on the planet.
Okay, gotcha. And why would you think that he's the coolest human being?
I once saw him bicycle kick a kid in the chest. Like he kicked his weight off of a tree and did like the whole Neo thing, kicked this kid in the chest 3 times.
How?
And so he got, they were playing and the play escalated, you know, and then it became a real fight. And this kid, we'll call him Cody, right?
Yes.
He shoves my brother into this tree and my brother looked at him like he was really about to find out.
Yeah.
And so I watched him plant his foot like on the tree at like a specific angle.
Yes.
And he like jumped off the tree and then kicked this kid 3 times in the chest. The kid fell down, gasping for air. I'm like, what do we do? I don't know CPR. You don't know CPR. We're under 10.
Yes.
And so he gets his breath and he screams for his brother to come over. And his brother's like, what happened? What'd you do? What's going on? And I'm like, he got knocked out.
Yeah. He found out at this moment in time. That's what that is. That
man, I was manic and, you know, told him what happened. And his brother was like, well, you know, if your brother running around doing the Matrix, I ain't like, you brought this on yourself, Cody. Dang, go home.
Why would I fight that? Why would I fight that?
Right. Why do you bring me into this?
Like, do we understand how against the laws of physics that is to be able to just like 1, 2, 3 kick a person in the fucking chest?
My brother was so maybe hard. Under 100 pounds. Like 8, 9 years old, under 100 pounds. Just what gravity did not exist in my brother.
Oh my gosh. You know what?
He was on that.
Hey, shout outs. Let's give a round of applause to the brother. Let's give a round of applause to him right now.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh man. I would love for you to meet him one day. I know you guys would be good friends.
Oh man. I feel like here's my question, man. And let's go with the first one. Is this? I feel like I do make a good friend, but I'm gonna ask you this: what makes you feel like what's a category for a good friend? Not using myself, but what's a category for a good friend?
I do friend shipping all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think that there is criteria that people should meet when you're thinking, oh, is this person compatible with, you know, this other person? And I think your vibe is perfect for his because he's also very mellow, very chill, and yet so funny. Both y'all come out the gate with haymakers just for no reason at all, just like robbing people of oxygen. And it's like, it should be criminalized, but I love it.
Oh my God.
Also, you know, my brother kind of like, he is an anime nerd, but he is like one of the most reserved. He's a conservative, you know, anime nerd where he's like, oh yeah, you like My Hero Academia? That's cool. My kids like it too. Meanwhile, I'm just like,
Oh,
let me tell you about my head canon.
damn. See, that's the thing, because like I know that people would talk about like anime, and I'm not like that. See, my anime would be horror. I love
Yeah,
people who talk about anime, but I'm like, oh man, I like that too. But as a great Instagrammer said about like animojis for Apple, is that I'm a
yeah.
grown ass fucking man. I'm gonna watch a grown man shit sometimes. so so I'm not shitting on cartoons or anime because I
No,
watch that
no.
shit.
I understand.
But like my life is not revolving around that. And then also, oh God, I think I lost
I
a bunch of people for that one.
no, come back. I
Duh.
I I have a very I have a an interesting relationship with anime because
Yeah.
if I love a show, like if
Wait,
anime
pause.
is grown
Wait,
man stuff.
I just realized this. Oh man. As soon as I
Hi,
said that,
Candy.
it went from like 5 people to like one person real quick.
No, I'm sorry.
But that, I'm just saying.
I want to
I'm,
insult your waifu, I swear.
I wasn't trying to
I
like fucking
I have a
punch
relationship
anybody.
with anime that's like if if I love a show, like I love Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z, right? I I need I need to critique it.
Yes.
Like because if you love something, you should have criteria like why you love it. You know what I mean? I like to consume content that has substance, and even like when it doesn't have substance, like at least follow the rules of your universe, which a lot of anime like
Doesn't do
has a
that.
trope of not doing. Yeah.
Uh,
But my niche is horror. I love
yes.
horror movies, and I've grown up watching horror movies. They
Yeah,
are like my comfort activity.
yes. I
And for a period of time, I wrote horror, and then almost got suspended from school.
oh man. So fuck, that's crazy. Cause here's my thing. And I know this is gonna sound awkward when I say this. There's two things that I think that like should be normalized is and two that should not be normalized. I love horror movies.
Tell me about it.
I love horror movies hands down.
Yeah,
But I also think that oh there go that echo again a little bit, but that's okay. I love horror movies, but I think that it should be normalized that you can watch horror movies and then you can also watch porn just for fuck's sakes. You should be able to do it. It
yeah,
sucks because some of the porn is definitely like overboard, right? Some of the porn is overboard, right? Like I don't want to go back to like 2006 and 7
yeah.
when we watching Two Girls One Cup, but I'm definitely
Right.
saying that like we should be able to normalize. Okay, a person watching porn just for the fuck of it, let them just watch porn for the fuck of it.
Right.
I remember having a conversation. My mom and dad, they did their best with the birds and the bees conversation. Oh,
Right. I
petty,
feel bad
petty,
for
petty
parents
as
during that
fuck.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. They try their best. My mom even did the weirdest thing by showing me like what a condom was and how to put it on and shit like that. So like I
Yeah.
knew about all that shit, but like before I was 10, right? So
Right.
but the good that was a good thing about them. Like I appreciate that. Oh, I'm sorry, Candy, you missed it. So what I was saying is two things that we should be able to watch is horror movies and porn. That should be normalized. Like horror movies are not necessarily a normalized medium. Like I think that horror movies will become normalized when we can actually nominate people for awards for doing horror movies.
Yeah.
Kind of like Angela
Yeah.
Bassett just
Factual.
won the first award for being in a superhero movie. Think about that in context in the cinematic universe.
Yeah. I I've had a similar conversation with my husband before, talking about because our parents they didn't navigate raising kids that will
Mhm.
experience the internet, but we are. And so we have to
Yes.
have that level of awareness because,
Yeah.
they say that the youngest, well, on average, boys as young as 12 are seeing porn for the first time.
Yes.
And I'm not going to just give my kid the keys to the kingdom. I want my kid to be a kid for as long as possible.
Mhm.
However, I also don't want them to be naive, and I don't want them to be indoctrinated into white supremacy through like hentai, as so many young men who have come out of that pipeline will tell you. A lot of the gateway has been hentai. And
Yeah.
so, like, before I let my kid have internet access, of course I'm going to have like a parent filters and all that. I want to explain to them, you are going to come across some things that are going to feel very unethical, and I want you to trust your gut on that, because you're
Yes.
probably right. And then we had a conversation about women who direct porn and how they like do the behind the scenes thing, where they're just like, all right, everybody okay, can we coordinate who feels comfortable doing what with who, and like establishing boundaries. And I think that the porn industry is starting to head a healthier direction. um, and I
Ish.
think it's important that we as a social consciousness stay aware of the trials and tribulations of the porn industry, so that when we can recognize dog whistles, and we can recognize pipelines and all of that. Sorry, start
No,
monologuing on you.
no, 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 no. I appreciate that. No, I was reading. I'm doing all of this at the same time, so that's why you see me probably look down and everything like that.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
no, I was
You are
listening to you.
a multitask champion. I thought I was good.
Oh yeah, that's the thing, man. Because like this
Um,
shit is tough because of the fact that like, okay, cool. I'm noticing in the chat. Oh, I'm getting a lot of links, and the box is going crazy. So I got to go over here and then like look at another screen and say, oh, turn off that chat box. Turn off that chat box. The one thing I'm not turning off, Candy, is my damn ads on Twitch. I'm letting you know we needs to make that shmoney. Taking that Jeff Bezos
that
pennies.
shmoney.
Me making that shmoney, man.
Come on. The
And
day
again,
after Martin Luther King Day, Candy? Are you for
yeah.
real?
All right,
Wow.
I'm gonna tell you this, bro. If you do this, I will give you like the keys to go to YouTube. Go to YouTube. YouTube should not have any ads set up at all.
Yeah.
But if you do want to be able to see this, it's still gonna play again. I'm gonna put the video on like Spotify after this. So like after today, if you don't see it, then it's gonna be fucking gone. So with that, I will give you the keys. $2 donation, $2 like subscription on fucking YouTube or Spotify, wherever you get your shit from. But porn is just entertainment. I do agree with that. I think the
Yeah.
only problem that I have with porn is the shit that's like almost borderline fucking pedophilic, and it also
Yeah.
incest a little
Exactly.
bit. I don't fuck
Yeah.
with that. So like I hate porn that says, "Oh, my step cousin, my step brother." Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
I get it. It's not full fucking like incest, but it definitely does border some shit.
It's second. Yeah, it's like second degree incest. And what I think is weird about those situations is that a lot of young men who consume that content approach women with this idea that like their only value as men is their accessibility to women's bodies, and then
Okay,
being territorial of women in your proximity because they're your property. Like
okay,
I don't fuck with that. That's just so
I
weird.
I
And
get
I
that.
think that it speaks volumes about like the young men who were emotionally abandoned by their parents like the second they were given an iPad, and just like, here, hop on Reddit, hop on YouTube, hop on all these websites where people give you misconstrued ideas of what manhood is, and
Yes.
you just learn to resent women without having any experiences with them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Oh,
I'm not trying to generalize people because that's what misogynists do.
that is not what misogynists do. Here is what I
They
would.
generalize people, yeah.
Well, okay. So here's my experience with when it comes to like misogyny, and I was as a person who was in infantry and who was around like the dark side of the moon of fucking like jobs.
Valid. Yeah.
I would say that like my personal opinion is that misogyny is more about ignorance and not necessarily about the generalization. So
Yeah.
it's more about the
I
idea
think
that like I don't know something, so I'm automatically gonna kind of categorize something because of the fact that like I just don't know what it is. And so it and I do see people switch that reference when they get a little
yeah.
information. So like, oh yeah, you gay, but you're not a fag. You know, I've
Right.
heard that before. So, but putting a person as gay and then also a fag will
Mm-hmm.
be generalizing, right? Whereas like, oh man, you know, like they'll grab on each other as like play grab ass with each other, and I mean like physically, or they'll talk shit about each other, being like, oh, that's such a like a gay thing to do, but they know that person's not gay. So I don't think that they generalize it in the context of like you are all gay as in like this person is being this way, right? So like you're not walking
Right.
around being RuPaul. They identify with that. But they
Right.
also and also in that same context, a misogynist would also be like so I have a story. When I was in basic
Okay.
training, and let me turn off this chat box at the same time. When I was in basic training, the worst fucking thing was taking showers for me. As a person
Yeah.
who has OCD, I was always having a hard time with actually taking a shower. And the reason being is because of the fact that like I really don't want to be around all these fucking people looking at my dick or whatever like that. Like there's nothing like more humiliating to me a little bit is like
Right.
showing my body in that way. I am like more than proud enough to be wearing a fucking t-shirt to go swimming. And so
Right.
um but I would see these white dudes, they would be like, cover me while I move, and they'll run down the barracks butt ass naked to the shower. Yeah, that type of shit, right?
Yeah.
They would do that
Yeah.
type of shit. And
I'll,
go ahead.
my brother's wrestling team was doing some sus ass shit. I'll have to tell you about the shower Olympics one day.
Okay, definitely. We have to do that
Bro.
later. But that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like
And then sorry.
generalizing would say that like they won't be comfortable to do shit like that if they thought that that was
And
generalized.
let me apologize for not explaining what my idea of generalizing is,
Gotcha.
because I also understand that we, look, for one thing, as Black people, but also as cisgendered people, have experienced misogyny on like two different ends of the spectrum.
Gotcha.
And I appreciate you explaining what you mean by generalization.
Yeah.
And I should explain what I also mean is when a experience that makes misogynists feel victimized in a way
Okay.
is something that they can identify as, oh, this is something that all women do, and women don't have unique experiences and they're not individualistic like us, but we all experience, this type of victimhood. That's what I mean by
Okay, got
generalization.
you. I got you. I get what you're saying now. Because
So like,
that's what I
yeah,
say. Go ahead.
yeah, so they think that all women are sugar babies or whatever.
Fair,
Andrew
fair.
Tate type of generalization. Yeah.
Definitely,
But
I
yeah, no,
definitely.
thank you for explaining what your sorry, thank you for telling me about your experience. And I would just love to like have more exchanges like this with you actually.
Well, no, I appreciate that. Like, no, it's just the fact that like it's not me trying to like to defend any of those people because like they still are
No,
doing
I
shit
know.
wrong.
I didn't see it like that.
It's just the fact that like I feel like so one of the things I talk about is there's a person that's like close to me in my life, and I have a hard time acknowledge that this person falls under the category of racist to other people.
Yeah.
But I also have a hard time acknowledging not acknowledging the shit that they say.
Right.
And so I think that sometimes some shit just comes from a place of blissfully ignorance,
Right.
and then there's a place of racism.
Yeah.
Racism to me is intentional. Like
Yeah.
for sure you want to segregate that. But blissful ignorance is coming from a place of like, it's still where you don't want to do nothing, but you're complacent to it. That makes sense what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah,
So
because I,
go ahead.
I give public speeches, and I've like spoken to people who want to begin a deconstructing journey one on one after a lot of these speeches. And what I've learned is that there is a language behind it. There
Yes.
is a there are phrases that you'll like see in a Facebook comment section where it's just like, well, that was all in the past. Well, that's blissful ignorance. Like
Yes.
you haven't heard it, haven't heard these experiences from firsthand from people who have lived it. You
Yes.
don't understand how systemic racism has like affected our the way our community remembers history, the way that we experience history, the way that history still affects us.
Yes.
And I think for another percentage of people, it's I've never been obligated to learn about the cultures that I benefit from. And I think that's like a large portion of the discourse in the black women having with white women about black hairstyles
Yeah.
is that they don't know about tea and laws. They don't know how we had to fight to earn the right to be visible. And so it's just on repeat every day. It's like, I should be allowed to wear my hair however I want. And then they have their hair fall out after people warn them that it's going to fall out. And then it's black women's fault for not protecting them and telling them and politely educating them, when
Yes.
in reality, they're like the 20th white woman that they've had to educate this week. It's
Yes.
exhausting. And so I think there is blissful ignorance. I think there's weaponized ignorance, and there's also weaponized incompetence, because,
Agree.
racism is a multifaceted issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely agree
Yeah.
with that. I'm gonna send you a link. I just listened to
Um,
this podcast. I love these TT and Zakia for this one. It's called Dope Labs, and they just did this thing on like um changing a person's mind. And
yeah.
so as soon as you make it, Candy, I will get a snap emoji. But right now, you gotta watch those ads and you gotta do those donations so I can afford to get somebody to make those snap emojis. So
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
but
I
Dope
feel
Labs, go
that.
ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Oh
Thank
no,
you.
no, finish what you were saying.
I feel that with a lot of the people that I've spoken to, the people who are the most resistant are the ones who have been told over and over and over again that you're right for thinking this, you're justified in thinking this, you have no reason to investigate why you feel this way. And
Yes.
the hardest part of the deconstruction, or like, becoming an ally or whatever, is accepting that you have to experience the pain of being wrong. And
Yes.
there are studies out there that say that when a person has been proven wrong, they have chemicals that flood their body that makes them feel physical pain. And
Yes.
that makes a lot of people angry. And, that like stems from trauma responses and da da da. So like every individual might experience finding out that they're wrong a little differently, or at least in my experience. And so I'll say, you believe X, Y, and Z, but what if I told you that A, B, and C are the reasons that X, Y, and Z exist?
Yes.
And so then you kind of walk them through their dialogue tree, because they all have a dialogue tree where they got this information. Somebody told them to think like this. And so you're expanding their dialogue tree, asking them to like run into those brick walls. Just, why do you feel this way? Why do you think this way? What can what can give that idea substance? And when they fall on nothing, it's like, what I have that is built on experience, that's built on information, that has an entire database, my lived experience.
Yes.
And that, like, I'm not saying I'm out here like converting people to the black, to the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm just saying, like, I've reached more people by helping them understand why they were brought to believe what they do,
Hmm.
versus just telling them you're wrong and you're stupid and you're racist.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
some people just need to hear
some
that.
people need to hear that, but I don't think it changes. And so
No,
I think
no.
that the context though still needs to be where we kind of just have to get to this point in time. I know this is gonna sound sucky. We kind of got to
No,
get at this
please.
point in time that we can't change people from being racist and discriminatory. And I think that
No.
one day, I know that this is going to sound fucking horrible, but I do believe that there's going to be one day where that dynamic is going to change, where it's going to be these melanated people who are now going to be in this place where they're saying, white people did this, white people did this, white people did that. I do believe that is a thing that's going to happen. Now, rightfully so, it is true because me and you had conversations about where I said about these gentrified families. But and what I mean by gentrified families, I haven't been scared about talking about it, but I'm learning more so on my end
Yes.
what it means to be that. Do I still have apprehension on it? Yes, but my definition truly more purely is the fact that, like, if you are a white person and you adopt a kid from Africa, right, or you adopt a
Right.
kid that's from Asia, right, is that kid is going to have some type of resemblance of their culture being put inside of them, into them? Are we going to be raising
Right.
new kids who are now thinking Kanye West post bipolar depression and nomads, or and
Right.
Candace Owens? Are we going to have kids that grow up and they become super activists like
Right.
arguably Farrakhan, and so on and
And
so forth? So it's that kind of thing that I'm just kind of I think that needs to be a delicate balance that you don't get.
and I think the place we really need to start with that is giving people who are transracial adoptees a platform
Yes.
where they can talk about their experiences without being gaslighted.
Yes.
I know that people want to feel good about the adoption, situation here in America, but as a former foster child and like somebody who has like foster child statistics on the reg, like literally 3 tabs across my computer screen right now ready for like action. I think that we got to create platforms for the recipients of those situations and validate them and listen to them when they share their experiences, or else that database is just going to get worse every 10 years.
Yeah.
And also by what you're saying, that's exactly what oil companies are betting on when they're fighting against the Indigenous Child Wellness Act.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know this, but they're hiring lawyers who defended the Dakota Access Pipeline and all these other pipelines that are stealing land from Indigenous Americans to allow Native American children to be adopted by white families.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, that would remove them from their culture. And, further down the line, besides the emotional and, racial stipulations of that situation, at the end of the day, these oil companies are fighting to ensure that there are no Native Americans to protect those lands when the
Yes.
next Dakota Access Pipeline comes up, when the next Standing Rock, is blocking bulldozers from illegally massacring their land. Like, these oil companies are literally raping the planet to death. And it's crazy how much involvement they have with institutionalized racism, systemic oppression. Like it sounds like one of those situations where I have red thread all over the place, but they are tied to literally everything that we do. And if you are oppressed by something, I promise you a bank or an oil company being funded by that bank are behind it.
Yes. Well, that's what I say. It kind of goes like, that's one of my things, is that what I feel is about that gentrified aspect of it is the fact of like, because I too would also say that like a gentrified concept is the idea of legalizing marijuana or cannabis, whatever you want to call it, right? I think that that's a gentrifying issue because of the fact that like you lock up all these people who are black and brown, who are melanated in some form of fashion, right? These people who are minority groups, and for doing these things, but then you go around and only less than 10% of the population is owned. These new companies are owned by people who are white. So I had a hard time when I was there in Washington voting yes to legalize marijuana, and I voted no because of the fact that they had no rule that said, okay,
and then
go ahead.
I'm right there with you because I had that same dilemma. And also they were finding pot shops that were hiring people who had previous drug convictions like $500. And so people who had prior drug convictions, whether it was expunged from their record or whatever, regardless of their situation, they can't get back up again
Mm-hmm.
because these companies are being punished for hiring them.
Yes.
And then in addition to that, you look at these states that are still struggling to get marijuana legalized. There are 19 Republican states and 9 Democratic states that are funded by the private prison institutions such as GEO Group, Management and Training, and the American Corrections Corporation, and Core Civic. There we go. It's always so hard to remember, but they own all 116,000 private prisons in America, and they use that labor to make products.
Yeah.
So, like, of course, by keeping our communities destabilized and fighting to perpetuate systems of poverty, they are continuously feeding the private prison system.
Yes. And
Which is also kind of like my whole bullshit about the foster care pipeline. I'm just
well,
like,
that's
private
like I
prisons,
said,
y'all.
yeah, it's just tough for me. I will say it's
Yeah,
just tough for me. It's not the fact that like
yeah,
I don't think that it's a thing, but I just feel like when you adopt a kid like that that's melanated or that comes from a culture that is not naturally of yours,
yeah.
now you got a basically a dark skinned version of
You,
a biracial kid. So you're not black enough to
yeah,
do this one
yeah.
thing, but you're also not white enough to be a part of this thing. And so you got this biracial feeling
I,
on it. And that's another
yeah,
topic, and I wish that we could fucking address later, is that I mean we as melanated people do some fucked up ass shit to our biracial people too. So
yeah.
go ahead.
I am biracial, and
Yes.
I've had this conversation in depth with a few different people.
Yes.
Um, that I think that colorism is a very wide issue. And I think that with as diverse as it can be, I feel that it was designed to divide the Black community.
Yes.
But, again, it's a whole nother conversation for another day. But as a biracial person, I feel that white people who choose to adopt melanated children need to be prepared for the gravity of a melanated child being in their home. Like, you remember that news article where the teenager had a hard time getting back into his house and the neighbors called the police on them.
Yeah.
And he had pictures of himself in the house and he still got arrested.
Yes.
So
I
it's
do remember
like,
that.
imagine yeah, imagine being in the shoes of that white mother who has never experienced those things or has ever been looked at in that way, now having to explain to your son why the police were called on him. And I guarantee you there was some amount of victim blaming happening there.
Yes.
Well, okay, it's probably not fair to guarantee because I don't know their situation, but I feel if we talk to that kid today, he would still be feeling the pain of that, and his parents would just be like, "Oh yeah, that was weird," you know?
Yeah. I'm gonna say one more thing, and then I think that we probably should wrap it up after this one because we don't fucking
Okay.
hit 3 different topics.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
um,
Sorry.
oh no, I enjoyed this. This is definitely what it was.
Yeah.
You mean this is what happens when you fuck around and find out?
This is what happened.
Because Tommy Davidson did an interview a few years back, and he was talking about how he was adopted by um and his adopted mom who was a white lady, and the problem was that he told a story about how he kept getting detentions for being late, but his sister who's white and the biological kid to his adopted mom was she was also white, so she had to sit down and have a conversation with him about the fact that he I got to go enjoy the conversation. Oh no, I appreciate it, man. Um so he had to have a real kind of come to Jesus conversation with his mom about the fact that he's black. He's not going to get the same experience as his
Yeah.
sister who's white. And so
Right.
again, I think that that's one of those things that this is kind of my phobia. I just kind of
Yeah.
another one that did a really good job was The Last OG, when Tracy Morgan's son was learning how to drive from his stepdad, and he went to go like talking kind of crazy to the police officer, and the dad was like, I don't know how to handle this. But at the same, he's not wrong. The kid is not wrong about what he's doing, but the kid
Right.
also doesn't know that, like, oh, you're dark skinned, you're not going to
Yeah.
experience life the
You
same
can
exact way.
die for this.
Yeah. So
um.
Tracy Morgan had to teach him that. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean about that culture,
Yeah.
is the fact of like,
And
how are you gonna be able to handle that shit? And I just don't think that I don't think that every person who adopts those kids is equipped for that. That's my biggest thing, is that
no.
you got to be equipped
And
for that type of shit.
I agree. And I also feel like, due to that lacking obligation to
Hmm.
educate yourself on these communities you benefit from, a conversation that I had with a mother at one of the protests I attended was, she's like, "How old does my should my kid be before I teach them about racism?" And this was after a speech I gave about surviving a hate crime.
Yes.
And I told her, ma'am, I was 8 years old when that happened. There, and the thing is, this is happening to little Black children every I'm just one that survived.
Gotcha.
And so at some point in every Black child's life, they know, whether they learn it or they experience it, they can die one day because of their skin color, and you have to be prepared for the gravity of that.
Yes.
And whether your child is Black or white, because I'm not going to ask her, I'm just like, regardless of what your child is, you need to tell them that, like, this is reality for so many people out there.
Hmm.
um and that was really upsetting for her. And every time I tell this story about surviving a hate crime, white women cry. And also Candy. So sorry, Candy.
Candy gets emotional about this, man. Candy gets emotional
Man,
about everything.
he's my best friend, like.
Aww.
um but no, really, I think that people don't realize, because they think, slavery ended and then Martin Luther King solved racism forever and we've never had any problems since. And then people like me come along, we're just like, hey, not only is this happening, we're dying over it. And they're just like, what do I do? And it's like, the work.
Yeah. No, I fucking thoroughly agree with that. And here was my top tier. I would have fucked some people up if I was there. Uh, and then Candy wrote, I cried because you were my friend.
Yeah, I would fuck some people up
Um,
over
so here's my thing, and I'm gonna try my best to round out how we fucked around and found out. We started off this
there.
conversation
Yeah.
with names. Maybe
I can fight.
yeah, I can fight. So we started off with names. My hardest thing was the fact of my name. I felt like I had the whitest name that a Black person
Yeah.
can have, and
My name's
we
Tammy K. Gladys. I wish to God I were kidding. Fucking, ah.
all right. This is the first time I'm gonna say it on stream, but you gotta pay the fucking hitters after this shit. My whole name, and this is why I said I have the whitest name for a Black person, is Jason Chad Blanks. Jason Chad
Ah,
Blanks. I gave it to you twice. Two of the
Chad.
whitest
An
Chads.
absolute Chad.
I am definitely a Chad.
I love that for you.
So don't love that. Do not love that for me at all. Do not. You're a
Oh,
Chad. Yes, I am a
Chad.
Chad. Yes, I am a Chad. So here's the thing, man. Um, that has been a plague in my life because of the fact that, like, again, my dad's favorite horror movie character and serial killer was Jason Voorhees. And so that's an identity issue. And again, like I said, I
Yeah.
do think that there's two things that we should be able to normalize in life. It's porn and fucking horror.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we did start off with how porn has its stigmas behind it, and that led to us having this conversation as well. about
Yeah.
just integrated
I,
families.
I
I'm now changing my name for it. It's integrated families.
it,
Integrated
stop.
family. Like it's not fully there. You know what I mean? Like the books are still not good. You know what I mean?
I
But
would I would love to see more black leads in horror. I especially would love to see more black
they got
villains in horror, right?
yes.
But I don't want to see any more black trauma. You know what I mean? I feel that, and as a writer, I'm speaking, saying I want to see more worlds where our blackness is not the center point or the focus of the
Okay.
narrative.
Yes.
I'm writing an entire comic where it is melanin bodies doing magic, having nothing to do with slavery. You know what I'm saying? Like
I think
we
you
can
need
do
it
that.
though.
We just need to give. I
Here,
need
here
it, and I
well.
know we can do it.
Here's my thing. As a person who like completely have a tough time watching shit like Kindred. Like I told you about Kindred, I really recommend watching Kindred.
Yes.
It's not bad. It's pretty decent. Um, but 12 Years a Slave, I felt like that was fucking too much. I felt like Amistad
Uh,
was too much. But I go ahead.
them them was so hard to watch.
I didn't
Episode
get to watch
5.
them yet. That's on
It
Amazon,
is.
correct?
Oh God. It's. I'm telling you, man. Episode 5. My sister and I had to like skip the whole thing because it was just a prolonged like trauma fest. And
Yes.
if you can handle the context like before that episode, I recommend like just skipping it entirely. But if you got the stomach to just watch a black woman be brutalized, then like good for you, you know. But I'm tired of it, and it
I I
really, yeah,
I
no,
get
I'm
it.
tired of it.
I get it. I completely get it. Um, but again, I mean, the layers to it, I will say is that I have a hard time with those becoming almost like the Super Bowl of a fucking black movies experience.
Yes,
You
yes,
know,
exactly.
you
Antebellum,
and Annabella, man, Annabellum is
yeah,
so fucking underrated, but
yeah.
it's a good
I
movie, but it's such a fucking fucked up ass movie, man. It's a fucked up
I
movie.
want a sequel to Octavia Spencer plays the lawyer prosecuting the dudes from the plantation.
I would love that. That would be a good movie.
That's where my catharsis is. They're like, oh yeah, when she rides off into the sun. No, I want to see justice.
Yes.
Like, sorry,
Because she was
like
raped.
that's the
She was
horror.
raped, right? From what I remember, she was
Yes,
raped in that. She was raped for
regularly.
months in there.
Yes,
And
held
she
against her will, assaulted, just all manner of horrible things happening to her. People were murdered, you
yeah.
know, and
And it was modern.
just
I'm sorry. The spoiler of it, if you missed this movie that came out like 5 years ago, I apologize
yeah.
for that.
So sorry, guys.
Just
Yeah,
I'm so sorry. But the
yeah,
spoiler about that movie is the fact of it's still a good movie, even after the spoiler, right? I know that
right.
the spoiler
Still,
feels more like Planet of the Apes kind of shit when you
I was
find out
spoiled
about it.
for it before I watched it, and I still enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
So if you ever watched Planet of the Apes, spoiler, they find out that they were still on planet Earth, right?
yeah,
So when this one happens, it made it look like she traveled in time in some kind of way, or she was living
yeah,
the life of both her ancestor and herself at the same time.
right,
But come to find out, no, she was abducted and she was
yeah,
forced to live as a actual slave. Her
yeah,
and hundreds of other black people were forced to do that. And the
yeah,
one thing that kind of threw me off was this part. The word cracker was used.
yeah,
The word cracker was like my biggest giveaway that like, oh no, this shit is modern day. Because
yeah.
cracker wasn't a word that was used from like at least like
No,
exclusively
no,
until
no.
like the 70s and the 80s, from what I remember.
Oh no, actually, sorry. I hate doing that, and I'm trying to stop doing that.
Oh no, no.
There's a
I
whole
love
video.
the Adams ruin everything kind of fucking moments that you have sometimes.
Sorry. For future reference, I will refrain from saying actually, but I have seen a couple of video essays that I think you'll be really interested in that
Okay.
talk about the history of the word cracker, and it was invented. Well, it was used to put white people down, but it was used as a form of classism to identify people who worked in the fields alongside black people, even if they were the ones cracking the whips. It's like also around the time the term white trash was born.
Yeah.
I'll send you the video essays. You're gonna love them.
Yeah, send it
But
to me.
yes,
But what I mean by that in context is though, like the
yeah,
word cracker, like we throw around nigga, right?
yeah.
Like
Well,
nigga wasn't used as a pop culture item
mhm,
until we kind of realized that we could utilize it for like things like hip hop and so on and so forth, right? And
right.
so that's what I mean about cracker. Cracker kind of came from a place of like you like kind of like Candy just wrote like you jive turkey and shit like that.
Yeah.
So it kind of came into like slang term for that as a item for it. What I mean by that, I get the cracker aspect of like the person who cracked the whip, but they be
Mhm,
technically Irish or German, whatever like that,
right.
that's doing it, right? But the cracker term, the way that he was saying it was not the way that like, oh, I'm identifying you as a fellow person who's considered an indentured
Yeah.
servant, right? It was definitely meant to
It's
be a
definite.
way to get this person off the horse and
Yeah.
to be distracted so that
Yeah.
Janelle Monae's character can do something else.
Yes.
So, and then another thing that kind of was the spoiler was the humming that they kept stopping to they stopped and they looked up, all of them looked up, and then they just went back to work after the humming went past. And
Right.
so, and it's more like you come to find out it's an airplane kept going over them. So,
Right.
um, I will say that like it kind of spoiled that part. It definitely does come off as Planet of the Apes, but I would say Antebellum is such a fucking good movie. I can't watch it
Yeah.
again, but it's such a good movie. It was surprisingly good for how like what it was about and where
I
it came from.
I would watch Annabellum again only to make a video essay about it and how they marketed it as if it was two worlds colliding.
Yeah.
But in actuality, the two worlds colliding were for the main character. You know what I mean? Um, and then, spoiler, as if we haven't said spoiler 50 times already, when she escapes, there are no legal repercussions to follow. So the
And she
audience is robbed of that catharsis of seeing, like, there's no restorative justice. And I think that's what a lot of Black trauma is missing. Like, even if you're doing like a fantasy element like with them where there's like ghost and possessions and shit, there's still no restorative justice. Like, it's kind of like Law and Order SVU. It's a show that women enjoy because there is a chance that somebody is going to be punished. You know what I mean?
mhm,
And they don't give Black trauma that same courtesy.
yes,
Anyway.
I agree. Here is the reason, but the reason why, and going back into like our follow up earlier, the
Yeah.
reason why I think that we need to have these movies about slavery is because of the fact that I feel like it's more of a catalyst than anything.
Yes.
You
Hmm.
need the catalyst. And even though the catalyst in its raw form is not appeasing, we really are looking for the bread, not the yeast, right? So
Right.
I would say that that's where the catalyst is important. That's where all of that shit kind of comes together and it just makes a full
Yeah.
kind of like connection. And
Yeah.
so if we didn't have like the Chicago Tribune, we didn't have the Black Star and so like those type of like those particular medium that particular media for like news for
Yes.
black and brown people, we would not really know how to communicate with each other across the board with other black and brown people who are in Michigan, who are in Minnesota. And I'm talking
Yeah.
that's an old newspaper format that they had like 30s and 40s. So I think that we need those movies to be able to be a catalyst. Now, do we what we don't need is movies like I had a hard time wanting to see Hidden Figures because
Yeah.
I was
It's a
told
white
that a
savior
couple of
movie.
characters who are white were not involved in this movie, but they had to put these white characters in it to make the movie flow.
Well,
I have the
that's
problem with those
my
type of
biggest
movies.
problem. Yeah, that's my issue with historical Black movies is that the Black women, the trans women, the women who either started the women's rights movement, and we're talking like the indigenous women, Asian women, all these women who stood alongside those Black women and those Black trans women have been relegated to secondary or non-existent roles in history. Almost nobody knows that one of the last living figures of the civil rights movement is still, her name is Miss Major Griffin Gracie. And she has been a key figure in the trans rights movement. And she's even worked with Coretta Scott King, who not a lot of people know is a gay rights advocate and has been forever. And we don't know that because nobody wants to talk about it, because it allows white people to maintain this identity as the gatekeepers of truth and justice. And that's why we have so many Black movies with white saviors, is because they can't be depicted as the purveyors of oppression. They show, well, not all white people are bad, so let's give them a couple of heroes. Like, no, talk about it. Talk about all the hard conversations that need to be had, excuse me, and give the spotlight to people who like are informed on these points in time. And I think what really draws people's attention is the background information that goes into those movies. You'll see, like, except for Jordan Peele's work, everybody just assumes that Jordan Peele's going to make bangers. But I've noticed that for a lot of Black movies that have some kind of historical context, people who learn this new thing are more invested in learning about the movie than the movie itself sometimes. But,
that's what I would say about the catalyst, is that like more people are interested in you kind of do need the yeast to make the bread, right? So
we're
yeast
like
is
this,
not
right?
excited about it, but yeah, you get what I'm saying. We are fucking connecting this shit. Told you. So here's my thing. And I think that like my argument would be against a movie where, oh, you have this white savior, is Isaiah Bradley.
Yeah.
If all white people are supposed to be good and supposed to be saving people, then Isaiah Bradley wouldn't be locked up as long as he was.
Yep.
So no, not Last Samurai. Let's fuck Last Samurai. I'm talking about let's talk about this in the context, right? Isaiah Bradley wouldn't have been locked up as long as he was. And also it wouldn't have took him another 40 to 50 years to get a statue. And that statue not be real, kind of like full fucking statue. Isaiah Bradley would have not been locked up as long as he was.
Fred Hampton would have statues and elementary schools named after him if all was well and fair and good. But we do not live in that world.
Now, wait. Here is my one thing. One is fictional, one is a real person. So Fred Hampton is a real person. Isaiah Bradley, if you do not know, he is the Black Captain America. He was tested on it was stated that he was tested on for the Tuskegee Project, part of the Tuskegee Airmen Project. There is fights between who was first. Was it Steve Rogers or was Isaiah Bradley? It depends on which book you read. I'm gonna go with the one where Steve Rogers is second. I'm gonna go with that one. If that's the case, Isaiah Bradley shouldn't have been locked up as long. And Isaiah shouldn't have been having to be on the run and stuff like that and be tested on that as long.
He wouldn't have had to hide from the public. He should have been celebrated as a hero.
Exactly.
But, you know,
and that's the thing that's not out there. There's a so if that's the case, then that should have been like handled a long time ago. So I'm not gonna leave us off with saying that all white people are bad. I hate the fucking thing. I'm not saying that. White people are evil. White people are not evil. Fat shout outs to your significant other. Fat shout outs to like my friends. It's not that at all. I promise you. But what I mean by that is that going back into it, it's hard to have
Yeah.
defense for that identity. It's hard to have any
Yeah.
form of like context when the I'm gonna reword this. I'm gonna actually reword this. Let me run that back. Earlier, like I said again, I stated that I just feel like people are ill-equipped who
Yeah.
adopt these melanated kids. I
Right.
just don't think that those people who are white, that seems like they are down for the cause. They are good allies. I just don't feel like they're actually equipped with the ability to actually gauge a particular type of situation. Doesn't mean that they're not good. It just means
Right.
that they're inherently bad at being good. Does that make sense? What I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes. No,
So,
you perfectly make sense, and that aligns exactly with my experiences being out here talking to people. It's really just there. I feel that the public
mhm,
executions of innocent Black people has really been a catalyst for a very small percentage of white people
mhm,
who have never questioned their privilege before. You
yes,
know what I mean? Or the way that they move through the world. Would that situation have been different for them? And
yes,
people who are asking that for the first time are experiencing an emotional evolution
yes,
that, the Black community, especially those of us who work within that structure,
mhm,
have evolved from over a period of several generations because
yes,
we've lived it, we've experienced it, and people like Candace Owens, they run around and they make it work for them, working within that structure, but at the end of the day, they're just a weapon for the communities that they should be fighting to protect. But
yeah,
uh, and I think that when white families adopt these melanated children, they think that they're giving them some kind of proximity to the illusion of safety in whiteness and don't actually realize it.
yes,
They think, oh, I'm going to get them in good schools. Oh, I'm going to give them, comfort. They're not going to want for anything. They're going to have a better life than whatever I imagined they would have if they were with their biological families.
yeah.
And that is thinking from a place of privilege, whether, people realize it or not.
I mean,
Anyway.
that's the thing too. That's what sucks too. Is the fact of like the idea of this is like, I mean, think about Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker seemed like he makes a lot of money, right? And so,
Yeah.
like, I mean, it sounds like he had a lot of kids. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what if one of those people put up their kid for adoption? So that means that
Yeah.
technically that kid could have lived a life of privilege that you, who is a middle class white person, probably couldn't have provided them in the same like context. Now, granted, they're in the system, so yes, that privilege is being taken away from them, but it doesn't equate
Right.
to the same thing. For your brain to automatically go to poverty, that just means that you're really bad at doing your a good job. That's what I'm meaning.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when a person says that, oh, you deserve this because you deserve it. Like it's like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No. What are your intentions behind that?
yeah, or like when I had a friend and I had a hard time because I really fucking love and adore this friend, and I consider him one of my I have these people who I say are groomsmen. If I renew my vows with my wife, I would invite them to be my groomsmen. And so this person I would invite to be my groomsman. And so and this person I praised him. I said, man, if you want to quit this job, quit this job. Do what you need to do what's best for you because you're not like happy at this place. Do what you need to do is best for you. And I was encouraging him to start his own platform. So he started his own platform. Coincidentally, January 30th, his first time of writing articles, he was like, I am going to do something for Black History Month. So he was like, hey, I need a couple of Black people to write for me. And I was like, fuck. That's the wrong thing to kind of act. But I supported
Yeah.
him. And then when it was like tough for him sometimes, because like it was almost like sometimes he'll sound like he's losing patience with a person when he was
Right.
talking to them. And I'm like, I get it, but you can't lose patience with certain shit like that. So I wrote this article about like being an ally, you know,
Yeah.
and my wife had to tone me down a lot because I was like, man, white people, they're white people. And then, and then like there's this and there's that. What is the and I was going into slang terms and everything like that. And it wound up being a dissertation more than it actually becoming a, like an actual article. And kudos to my friend for still doing it and providing opportunities. That was my one of my first paid writing gigs, and I appreciated him for that. But he was very terrible at doing something good. And
Right.
so it's like looking at like Bad Boys, the movie Bad Boys, and realizing that they destroyed all of Miami just to stop drug dealers.
And
You know,
it
that's what that feels
reminds
like. Oh
that
shit. I
reminds
didn't realize the time. With that.
I would love to finish that conversation with you because your
Yes.
friend reminds me of a article about Nancy Pelosi's response
Yes.
to Derek Chauvin's conviction. But
Yes.
that's another conversation for another day.
Yes. Y'all stay dope, stay amazing. Y'all have a good day. I have to run. I'm actually running late to go pick up somebody. Take it easy.
Ooh,
Peace.
all right. Yeah, nice. Okay.